Hello, MYP students. So in this particular video, we are going to discuss about criteria B of physics. So this is going to be the part one video. So the consequent video will be uploaded soon on my channel at the rate of your IB tutor. So in this particular video, guys, I'm going to explain you how exactly you have to start writing criteria B answers so that you are able to score 8 on 8 in that. And I can guarantee you guys that if you just follow the instructions which I'm going to give you in this particular video, you will not lose even a single mark, guys. Because I'm in this particular video, I'm going to tell you how exactly you can write a research question, how you can decide the independent variable, what are independent variable, what are dependent variable, what are controlled variable, and what and all things needs to be taken care in criteria B. So this is going to be the part one video of criteria B guide for MYP Physics May 2026 examination, guys. So let's get started. So before I start, I'm just going to introduce myself, guys. So my name is Ankit and I am a MYP and IBDP teacher. So for MYP, I teach maths and physics, and for IBDP, I teach only maths. So I have over 13 years of experience, guys. So I understand the psychology of examiner before setting the who sets the IB paper, and I also guide the students in a very smart way, in a very efficient way, like how they can score 8 on 8 in these criterias. So if you have any doubts, guys, you can contact me on my Instagram at the rate of your IB tutor, or you can also contact me on my email. I'm going to leave my email ID in the description. You can check the description, guys. So if you need any help, just DM me on Instagram, or you can mail me also. So let's get started with this particular video, guys. So before I explain you how to write the answers, so first we need to understand what exactly is criteria B based on what exactly it tests. So in this, basically, you need to identify a scientific problem. It tests basically if you're able to identify a scientific problem. It tests whether you're able to form a testable hypothesis, and can you design a valid experiment. Can you identify and control variables, and can you write a clear method? So these are the five things which is being tested by criteria B in MYP physics, and the name of the criteria is Inquiring and Designing, and the points available in criteria B is 8 out of 32, guys. So now criteria B has four strands. So in strand 1 we have explaining the problem and the research question. Then we have hypothesis with scientific justification. Then in strand 3 it is basically how we decide the variables, and the strand 4 basically tells you the methods and the materials. So it has only all these four strands, guys. So if you just follow these, if you understand how these four strands, so there is a particular format which you need to write the answers on, and if you follow that particular format, no one can stop you from getting 8 on 8 in criteria B, guys. So we are going to discuss each of these strands in detail. So let's understand strand 1, which is explaining the problem and research question. So in strand 1, we basically have to write the research question, and I'm going to explain here with the help of an example. So the research question is basically you have to follow the format, that how does independent variable affect dependent variable in context of the experiment. An example of this can be, how does length of wire affect its resistance? And if you write the research question like this, then obviously it's going to be acceptable. And if you just write what happens to the resistance, or what happens to the does length affect resistance, you're going to get 0 in this. So you have to follow this particular format for the research question, where you're supposed to mention how does the independent variable affect the dependent variable in context of the experiment. So now let's understand what is basically independent variable. So independent variable are the one which you change in the experiment, which is changed deliberately, and dependent variable are the ones which gets changed because you're changing the independent variable. So the independent variable is the one which you change deliberately, and independent variables are the one which gets changed. So for example, like let's say we are doing an experiment where we are trying to figure out the relationship between the length of the wire and its resistance. So obviously resistance, I'm going to change means we are changing the length of the resistance, and we are checking how the resistance of the wire is varying. So obviously in this particular case, the length of the wire will be independent variable, and the dependent variable would be the resistance of the wire. And now the third thing is basically called as the controlled variable, and control variables are basically which is constant throughout the experiment. So which is basically constant throughout the resistance. So in this particular experiment where we are trying to figure out the relationship between length of wire and resistance of the wire, so obviously the cross section area of the wire has to be constant. Only you are supposed to change the length of the wire, then the resistance of the wire will change automatically, and the control variable would be the cross section area of the wire, because you all know that resistance depends on the cross section area. So if cross section area is also changed throughout the experiment, then the result, which is basically we are trying to figure out the dependency of length on the resistance, we won't be able to figure it out exactly appropriately. So cross section area will be constant, so it will be controlled, it will be a control variable in this. And another control variable in this particular experiment can be the material of the wire, because since you are only trying to figure out the length of the relationship between length of the wire and resistance of the wire, so obviously the cross section area is going to be same throughout the experiment. And another thing which you have to keep constant throughout the experiment is the material of the wire, because if you keep changing the material of the wire, let's say you are using sometime copper, sometime aluminum, sometime iron wire, so you might not be able to figure out the exact relationship between the length of the wire and resistance of the wire, which is the sole purpose of the overall experiment, guys. Please understand this. So next strand is hypothesis, guys. So in hypothesis is basically a statement in which we predict the outcome of the experiment. So you need to understand here, guys, since hypothesis is a prediction, so once you conclude the experiment, once you're done with the experiment, it might get, it means the hypothesis can be correct also, and the hypothesis can get wrong also, because it's a prediction. It's not an exact like the result of the experiment. So like the format to write the hypothesis is, I predict that the as independent variable increases, dependent variable will increase, decrease, stays the same, because scientific reasoning linked to the theory also you have to write. So this is basically comes under justification part of the hypothesis. So example is, I predict that as the length of the wire increases, the resistance will increase, because resistance is directly proportional to length of the wire according to the formula R is equal to rho L by A. A longer wire means more means electron travel further and experience more collision, and which increases the resistance. So this is how exactly you have to write the hypothesis, guys. So the most important thing in writing the hypothesis is deciding the independent variable, dependent variable, and controlled variable properly, correctly in criteria B. If you figure out the IV, DV, and CV wrong, guys, criteria B is gone. You will get a 0, because you need to understand, as soon as your IB, DV, CV is wrong, that means your research question is wrong. That means your hypothesis is wrong. Your justification of the hypothesis is wrong, and now you're going to conduct the whole experiment on your IB and DV, which is again going to be completely wrong. So you will get a big 0 if you're not able to figure out the IB, DV, and CV in criteria B. So what is the method to figure out the IB, DV, and CV? So the only method I ask student to predict IB, DV, CV correctly is, guys, you have to read the question patiently. You have to read and understand each and every line of the thing which is given in the question. Like you might have seen, whenever there is a criteria B, so they might provide you with some video, or they might provide you some text or some video script. So you have to read that thing properly, you have to understand that thing properly, you have to assume that not that guy who is being talked about in the question, but you are the one who is doing that experiment, and then you have to think as per his mentality. Then you have to like decide the IB, DV, and CV. And once you decide IB, DV, CV, guys, 60% of criteria B is done. You will automatically get 60% marks easily if you just follow the format which we are discussing in this particular video. So guys, till now we have already discussed this strand 1, strand 2, and strand 3. So I have already explained you how to write the research question, how to write the hypothesis and justify it, how to decide the variable. So strand 4, as you know, we have to write that experiment fully. So I am going to cover that in the next video, guys, like how you can write the experiment fully. And you know that writing the experiment in criteria B holds 15 marks, guys. So that's a lot. So I'm going to create a separate video on that particular topic, and I'm going to upload it soon. So till this time, till then, you must master, you must practice all the past papers, guys. So if you don't have access to the physics past papers, you can get into my website. You can check my website in the description, guys, and you will see physics past papers available there free of cost. So you just need to send me the request, and you send me the request, and I'll accept the request, and then you will be able to see the past papers, guys. So please start practicing criteria B. Please try to figure out correctly the IB, DV, CV, and how to write a hypothesis and its justification. And if you follow this much, guys, 50%, 60% of the work in criteria B is done, because writing experiment is very easy, which we'll be discussing in the next video. So I'll see you all then, guys. Till then, if you need any help, you can message me on my Instagram, and you can mail me also, guys. And all the best for your IB MYP physics exam, guys. And I'll see you soon in another video.